Safi and Marco dish out on the movies. And today we have something a little different. Actually, it's not really too different for us, but maybe for this channel we haven't done anything like this in a while. But we are reviewing Masterchef Junior, which is in its 8th season. And we, in the past, used to watch a lot of different cooking shows. And we would watch Masterchef, which is the adults. And then we would watch this Masterchef Junior, which is kids. And
we would also watch, what else, Safi? Well, I watched Hell's Kitchen, but I stopped watching it because I was getting sick and tired of the terrible judging. Like the thing where there was this guy and he has some sort of he was in a car accident or something, and he needed to write notes down on a little notepad, and he kicked him right out of the competition just because he was disabled and needed to write notes on a notepad. And I thought, what a that's ridiculous.
Well,
And you see all those types of things happen in Hell's Kitchen. That's why I don't watch that show. And unfortunately, it seems to happen in every cooking show, is that you'll get these decisions that are just terrible. And it's maybe it's just because you're not there and you're not seeing things for yourself. But the way that the editors make it look, they make some of these decisions look really bad. And we also watched Worst Cooks in America, which we really like that, even though it's a junk show. It's just junk.
But it's just fun. And you do learn some things, too, about cooking.
We also watched Chopped, which we did not like, because the chefs were full of themselves.
There's a lot of politics.
Did not like them at all. And then we also watched, our favorite one was Cutthroat Kitchen. And it's still our favorite one, right, Safi?
Yeah, it was fun.
I mean, MasterChef, the problem with MasterChef is Gordon himself, because in a lot of these shows you can kind of see his ego come through him, and just the fact that he has MasterChef Junior, it's kind of pointless, because you can see in past seasons, and we'll talk about this, you can see that contestants some of them are actually actors, and they're not even interested in cooking, they're just doing it to boost their careers.
Yep.
And I don't think that's right at all, especially when there's other child chefs out there who could have been on the show and they were rejected because of some privileged actor kid.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's one of the problems with MasterChef Junior. MasterChef, though, is not very good either. I mean, in general, we don't really like MasterChef or MasterChef Junior. They're very hit and miss. And a lot of the times, it's just the judge's fault. It's not the people on the show's fault. Safi, what was the worst moment in cooking show history?
I don't know, but there was one time for the MasterChef show where it was down to a few contestants, and it was a time when they get to see their families, so I guess as adults.
Yep, that's the one.
They don't, they're on their own when they're there. These kids, though, they have a parent with them because they are minors, so it is different. But in this show, everybody had a relative there except this one guy. And I don't understand why they couldn't have gotten somebody for him. Or I don't know.
Anyone.
Or
literally anyone.
Or not even had this for anybody.
Because that was just sickening.
And he was pretty good. I mean, he tried. He tried his very, very best.
He tried, but he has an evil family. And it actually sabotaged him. And then guess who got sent home that episode? He did. And I wonder why. I wonder why, Safi. It's really not rocket science.
Well, he was discombobulated. In other words, he was affected because all these other people were having these loving reunions with their families, and this guy,
And
no.
like, why would they do that? Like, what a disgusting.
It was
Like,
just so disappointing. I
ew.
felt so bad for him, and I felt like I wish I could make it up to him. I just felt terrible for him, and they, to me, it was almost, it wasn't just the fact they couldn't find somebody for him. The problem is they did not approve of what he was doing. I remember that.
Oh
And
yeah, they didn't like that he did things a certain way. They were like, no, you need to do it this way. You need to do it the Masterchef way. And it's like, well, does the Masterchef way involve having your game completely thrown off because it's like this rigged competition thing where everyone else has a family member come and but you don't, and so then you have to do it all by yourself.
I
Like
just,
that's just ridiculous.
I'm just like, why did they do this to him? But we're digressing.
Well, we're
So
just
we have our good and our bad experiences with these cooking shows.
and we were just saying like that's the worst moment
That
is
was
in
the very
MasterChef.
worst moment. And
Yeah, clearly.
for me, I enjoy watching these shows, but I stopped watching Hell's Kitchen a million years ago because you know why? They had a bunch of these people and they're chain smokers.
Yeah,
And I
that's
don't
not really relevant though.
Well, it is because it affects your
No.
taste. And I don't know how it could be accurate to have, he gets, in that particular show, the person who's getting the prize actually goes to one of his restaurants and they're actually the head chef or something. And I'm thinking, like, if you can't really accurately taste your food and all the people under you can, how does that work?
Safi, is this video gonna be an hour long?
Well, you're the one who dragged it out.
No,
So anyway,
I was giving appropriate. Okay,
we should
okay,
get
f
back
off,
to the
f off. Okay, and now I'm gonna talk about MasterChef Junior, since that we're supposed to be talking about Safi. And so I started watching this show. I watched the first season, and it was a complete disaster from start to finish. And the biggest problem, they had a lot of child actors in that season. They had the girl from Ozark, the teenage girl.
Hmm.
I don't know why she would be in a cooking show. And then they had this little girl who was like 9, and she was the youngest one there, and she was pretty good. But then there were 2 bullies on the show, and one of them was named Vicky, I think, and she was this older Asian girl, and she had this discrimination thing where she would bully the contestants that were younger than her. And then you had Troy, that piece of shit Troy, who was a huge bully, a jackass, and oh boy, I just love to punch him in the face after seeing him in that season making what did he make, like some fucking
I didn't see that
shrimp soup out of a can,
Oh.
talentless hack, child actor, fraud, piece of shit. He is the worst, and because of that, and then guess what happened? When they bullied her, she got kicked off the competition because they were bullying her. They were doing a restaurant competition, and she was supposed to be in charge, and they were controlling her and bullying her, and the judges didn't do anything to stop it. And I thought, well, I'm not watching this disgusting show because they should have done something. You know, you don't normally mix kids from different ages, but since this is a show, that's just what they did, and they should have done something to stop it. And so I didn't watch it for a while, and I thought it'd be funny to watch it with Safi, even though all she does is fall asleep and slack off with the reviews. And so we watched a couple of years. You know, they were pretty bad, honestly. Like, the winners were just complete trash. Like they were just like, really? Like that's who won? Like there was one year where they had Rosemary's Baby win, and they had another year where there was this kid named Frogface, and he was in the finale, and he didn't even deserve to be in the finale, but they just put him there because he was the youngest one, and they wanted to fulfill their agenda of having, let's have the youngest MasterChef Junior winner ever. That's going to be really important and life changing. That's going to win the war in Europe. Is if we have a young MasterChef Junior, and it's got to be Frogface. And spoiler alert, he didn't win, thankfully. Right. And so we've been waiting. You know, there hasn't been any since 2019, and so this is the newest one. And this episode, Safi, wake up.
I'm awake.
No, you're not.
Yes, I am.
This episode is called Junior Edition Punch and Munch. And one of the reasons why I wanted to review this show is for this exact reason. Because you see this stupid title, this stupid, babyish, wimpy, goofy, lollipop twirl title, Junior Edition Punch and Munch. Like, just imagine being an adult and being paid to come up with that title, and then going home and being like, I came up with a title for MasterChef Junior, Junior Edition Punch and Munch. Oh my God, I'm gonna win an Oscar, and then not even have it televised, giving it to me. And so, one of the reasons I wanted to review this shitty show is that, you know, these reality shows have been under particular protection for a long time, and it's usually done in the form of the actors on the show. They sign secret contracts so that by that I mean they're not allowed to say anything about the show, and so it kind of protects the show from being criticized at all, because people don't know what goes on behind the scenes. And they kill people too. These reality shows, they kill people, and then they don't take responsibility. You know, they're pretty bad. I mean, the people who make them, they're pretty bad. And this show in particular, why is this show protected? Safi, wake up. Why is this show protected? Safi?
Why is it protected?
Why is MasterChef Junior protected?
Because I guess they like Gordon Ramsay because he has all these shows.
False. It is protected because these are children.
Oh, well, yeah.
And with every single Marvel movie nowadays, what do we see? Why are you complaining about a children's movie? Why are you complaining about a movie that was made for children? You're not the target audience. And it's like every single kids thing nowadays, you can't criticize it because it's for kids. And guess what? That's not going to fly with me. This channel is called Safi and Marco Dish Out on Movies, and and we are going to dish out on everything, no matter if it's kids or adults. And so we have landed on MasterChef Junior, and I am going to destroy this show at every chance I get. And this episode is a prime example why. Safi, talk about the episode. Do something useful. Wake up.
I'm awake. I don't know what you're talking about.
Wake up. What happened?
Really late.
What happened in the episode, Safi?
Well, there's 3 chefs.
Really?
Who are judging what the kids
Yeah,
do.
let's talk about the judges. You got Gordon. His ego is so giant that he should be on The Biggest Loser. The Biggest Ego Loser. Because that's how big his ego is. And, you know, he's kind of trash. Like, he just picks his little protege every season who he wants to win, and he doesn't really focus on anyone else. But he's fine. You know, sometimes he's helpful, but sometimes he's just a real pain in the ass. Like in this episode where he made this little girl cry, and it was really funny.
And
But
you could tell right away he hurt her feelings.
I know.
And I mean, you could feel it. I mean, I don't know when this was filmed, but I mean, it wasn't live, and I could feel that he hurt her feelings. It was just a thing where she made something that had whipped cream in it, and she over whipped the cream, which means it was a little too stiff. And so he said, "This is more like cottage cheese." I guess he said it, or maybe Aaron, the other judge.
We'll
There's
talk.
two-
We'll get to Iran.
well, anyway,
We'll get to Aaron.
somebody said it looked like cottage cheese, and you could just see it in her face. She felt terrible, and I know that sounds silly.
It was really funny though, because she made this face where she was like.
Well, what the problem with her is, she said, well, she said something like she had a very interesting outfit on, and it was very dressy. And she said, when I dress like this, I feel pretty, so I make pretty food. And she actually had, it looked like pearls.
That was funny.
It wasn't pearls, but it was like a beaded necklace that looked like pearls. So, I mean, I've never seen a kid wear something like that. But I'm not criticizing her at all. She just, her mindset, I think, was towards fashion design.
But Safi, the point is that this is a show.
Yeah, I know.
This is a show.
And the thing is, though, it's just...
It doesn't translate to reality. This is fake. It's a fake show with fake children. The children, they're different in real life, and they're children, and so who cares? It's a show. And just because they're children doesn't mean we're not going to critique the show.
Well,
but there was nothing wrong with her, but it was pretty funny. A very unique character on display.
Yes.
And so I came up with the nickname for, I was like, oh, she's acting like she's an My Fair Lady or something, the costume design. And so we're going to call her My Fair Masterchef Junior from now on. We're not going to call her by her real name. And we're not going to call any of the contestants by their real names because we don't think of them as people. We think of them as characters. And we're going to talk about them like they are characters, right, Safi?
I suppose so.
Yeah. And so...
But they had to do this challenge, and we were thinking, because in years past, when you watch any MasterChef, whether it be a kid or adult, half of the show would be one challenge, and the other half would be another challenge. And this was like, and in this show, it was really weird, too. They have all these contestants. They won the right to be there. And we didn't get to see or hear from the other contestants.
Okay, well, Safi, you jumped way ahead. You jumped way ahead, so I don't know why you did that.
Well, I don't know.
We were talking about the judges. Okay, so the next judge, we already talked about Gordon. Well, I talked about him. And then you...
You have two others. You have another male. That's Aaron, and he's been there for quite a few years now.
His name is Aaron.
It's Aaron. It's
Aaron. Aaron Sanchez. And so Aaron, he makes really funny faces. He just makes these derpy faces all the time. Like there was one time where in this episode where he tasted a contestant's dish, or he tasted an element of their dish, and he made this like really perturbed face, like he didn't like it, or like, ooh, what was that? Oh no, my culture has been offended. and the main problem with him is that he is probably the most biased judge that there has ever been in MasterChef history, including for MasterChef regular. Very, very biased, very, very slanted toward one way, which is unfortunate.
He has his favorites.
It's unfortunate because he is a good personality, and if he wasn't so biased and stupid, then he'd be a pretty good judge. And now let's get to the worst judge. Let's get to the elephant in the room, literally. Daphne, Daphne. Let's just call her Daphne because that's funnier. Daphne Oz. We have this pregnant woman, and Safi, what do you have to say about her? Because she's a woman.
She was
You're a woman.
very narrow-minded.
Yeah, there you go.
And I didn't like that. In fact, cooking is like art, and you can't, and it's subjective too, but still, you have to be open to different ideas and new visions of certain foods and how they're put together. And this one kid, each kid picked one thing. They punched a hole into this.
They all had to do that, Safi. They all had to do that, and they either got seafood or fruit.
And so a few of them got some really gross things like eel.
There's nothing gross about eel, Safi. I'd eat eel right now. I'd eat eel right now.
Touch it with a 10-foot pole.
I'd eat eel right now.
Good for you. I wouldn't.
Well, I would.
Well, good for you. Well, I don't care about what you would do.
Really?
And so, but anyway, this one boy, he picked kiwi fruit, and kiwi fruit is pretty good. And
it's okay.
He had to make a dish. Everybody had to make a dish where whatever they picked was the star of the dish.
It's the hero.
And
because it can't be the chefs that are the heroes. It has to be the food that's the hero.
His dish was lava cake, which is chocolate lava cake, which anybody knows is this little hunk of chocolate cake, and then when you put your spoon in it, all this gooey chocolate sauce comes out of it. And then what would go with it would be I guess he sliced some kiwi fruit, and he
now this kid
he's them up or something.
He's pretty good. His name actually makes his nickname itself. His name is Abir, and so so obviously we're gonna call him Abir. Like, say, Safi, can you get me a beer? And he's gonna hear that his whole life. Like every single year. Like with me, it's Marco Polo. Well, with him, it's going to be, hey, a beer. Can you go get me a beer?
Well, despite having this name, he was a very genial, nice, adaptable, actually very mature and grown-up kid.
Oh, really?
Well, I thought he was. I just think he had a good attitude. And he was nice to everybody.
He made this chocolate kiwi cake, and honestly, that might have been the number one thing that I saw there. Because I thought, like, that's the number one thing I want to have. Like, just thinking about chocolate with kiwi, that seems like it'd be a really delicious combination. Well, you have, very weird, this pregnant woman who has pregnancy cravings. She says, I don't think that, let's try to imitate this Karen.
I don't think that chocolate goes with kiwi at all.
And it's like, biatch, just looked up chocolate and kiwi. There's a million recipes about chocolate kiwi cake. GTFO with that crap, okay? And she said some other stupid things too, like Safi. She said one thing, she could have said the general rule with crawfish is to cook it less. And, to cook it shorter. But she said, in general, it is best to cook seafood less. And that made me so sick to my stomach. Because I'm just looking at these kids, these 8-year-olds, these 10-year-olds, these 13-year-olds, and I'm thinking, ooh, just imagine they heard her say that, and they're like, oh, you know what I should do? I should put this huge fillet of swordfish in the oven for 1 minute, because Daphne told me that you should cook seafood for a short period of time. Because that actually happened to me. When I was younger, when I was a kid, I actually got like this big swordfish fillet, and I cooked it for like the amount of time that it said to cook it online, but it was still not enough, and it was like raw, and it was so gross, and it was
gross.
such a disaster. And so just thinking about like her telling kids the general rule for seafood is to cook it less. Like, just put it like this, like for crawfish, because, and she should have explained this too, crawfish are small.
Yeah.
They're small, and so obviously you should cook it less.
That's a little appetizer.
Like, you don't compare cooking crawfish with cooking a giant salmon fillet. Like, what kind of... So we did not like her. And, well, I kind of liked her because I thought she was funny to laugh at. Like, I thought, like, God, is she going to have all these stupid things that she says every single episode?
Yeah.
Because then I'm going to have lots of fun, like, just ha 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 ha, because it'll actually help the bad episodes. And this episode is all about one challenge.
Yeah.
It's all about, of course, we talked about each of the kids either get seafood or fruit, they cook a dish, and then they get judged. Oh wait, no, they don't get judged. Only 6 of them get judged, and the rest of them get to fly under the radar and avoid being detected. And so, do you know what's going to happen, Safi? What always happens? You fall asleep.
No, I'm not asleep.
Yeah, you're sleeping.
No, I'm not.
Sleepy Safi. Hashtag Sleepy
And
Safi.
it's midnight too.
Sleepy
and I get up at
Safi.
4 o'clock in the morning.
That doesn't matter. This is a review, Sleepy Safi.
Okay, well, I'm not asleep.
Yeah, you are. And so, as I was saying, what was I saying, Safi?
I don't know, Marco. You're so wide awake. Why don't you remember?
Well, it's just so much crap to talk about with this stupid show.
Well, we're talking about the lady chef and her saying that there's no such thing, or she doesn't care for, she doesn't think they go together, kiwi fruit and chocolate. And that was just nonsense.
Yeah, it's just BS.
Very narrow-minded. And to me, that is not what a chef, a teacher would say. She should be open to
Safi?
something new.
Hey, you know what, Safi? I don't think that salt goes with pepper.
That's like what she's saying, basically. Like, I don't think that these two... Like, wouldn't it be funny if in the future all people would eat is kiwi and chocolate? Like, she would live in hell every day because she'd just have to eat kiwi and chocolate all the time. And she'd be like, these don't go together. And she'd cry like they made the little girl cry in this episode. But what I was saying was that only 3 people whose dishes they thought were quote-unquote the best got their dishes judged, and 3 bad people, quote-unquote, got their dishes judged. So you had all the other kids, and they didn't get their dishes judged.
And that, to me, I don't know why we couldn't just see what they made. Go through each one. I mean, we hardly even got to see them, much less see what they made, which I thought was terrible.
It was very disappointing because I was really looking forward to seeing them. And I think that that is a problem with cooking shows too, is that you have with these episodes, oh, we can only show these couple of people. We can't show everyone. There's not enough time. Well, if there's not enough time, then might as well not even make the show. Because I have the time, and everyone else does too, if they want to watch a show. And so I just think that that excuse is BS. It's not going to fly on this channel.
No.
And like there was this one girl, we haven't come up with a nickname for her yet, but she had epilepsy, and so she was a pretty good contestant. I mean, see, the problem too is that with this first episode, we can really only judge a couple of the contestants on, like, do we like them? Do we don't? Do, do, do we not like them? Because they only showed a couple. So you have all these other contestants like her. I didn't even get to see her finished dish or like if it was good or not. And so like I could, if it was good, I would have said like, "Oh, I hope that she gets to the top." But I didn't get to see that. But you know, we wanted to see hers. And then there was another girl from Missouri that Safi obsessed over, and of course now she's falling asleep again. And sleepy sellout Safi. And Safi, you want to say anything about the Missouri girl before you go to sleep again?
No, I don't.
Well, we were just
Oh,
saying.
the Missouri girl, her father, this is a little girl who has grown up in a household where the father is an expert. Uh, he barbecues and he enters all kinds of competitions all around the country.
Yeah, I bet he's so good he could do it in his sleep, but he actually chooses to do it when he's awake like normal people.
And she has gone with him on some of these trips and has helped him. And she is not afraid of anything. And I don't really even think she gives a crap about being there because she's won competitions before with her dad. And it seems to me that she's thinking they're going to win more.
And we didn't even get to see. We didn't even get to see what happened with that. Like,
no, I don't even know what she made.
I can't even remember.
Well, she said something about they have, she and her father, they've invented several barbecue sauces as part of her, of their contest participation. And, you know, just part of their cooking. They like to invent different barbecue sauces. And she said she used one of them, I think, a variation of it or whatever for her dish. But, of course, we never got to see it. I don't even know what she picked. I have a feeling she picked a fruit or something like that. So, that was interesting. She was from Springfield, Missouri.
But then there were some other...
Interesting.
Yeah, go to sleep now, Safi. What do you want your bedtime story to be? Gordon's... Why are you flicking me off?
Cut it out, Marco. Let's just finish the review. Okay?
What do you want your bedtime story to be? Good Night Gordon? You know, like Good Night Moon? Wouldn't that be a shitty story? Like, it'd have, like, before Gordon went to bed, he put his beef Wellington on low
Next
in
to
the
his
oven. And then he went to sleep next to his Hogwarts books. And then he went to sleep. Okay. So, there were some other typical reality show things that we didn't like. And one of those, of course, revolved around who they picked to show. Because whenever they do these reality shows, it seems like they'll focus on certain people and it's like, okay, that person is going to win. Or like, you know, like Rosemary's Baby. Or like that person is going to get in the finals. And there have been a couple of exceptions, and probably my favorite season of MasterChef. I haven't seen seasons 2, 3, or 4, or maybe 6. I don't know. I don't care. But season 5 was my favorite season because they had this one girl named Jasmine, and she got kicked off the show, and then she actually came back in a special competition, and she got back onto the show, and she won, and that was great because the show didn't really focus on her, and she flew under the radar. So that was a good example. But in this episode, they had this one kid. I'm not going to call him by his name, of course, but let's just call him Brainiac. Okay, so they had this one kid named Brainiac, and he seemed very advanced. He seemed like the most advanced kid there. Good morning, Safi.
Stop it.
I was talking about Brainiac, and then you woke up, and it's like, I wasn't calling you Brainiac.
Oh my god. Marco slap happy. So if you don't think that being late at night and doing this review affects him, you have another thing coming.
No, I'm trying to awaken you, Safi, since you've just decided to sleep at the wheel for this one. Uh, Brainiac, he's very advanced, and he got okra, and he managed to get in the top 3, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, because he'd never cooked okra, and I don't even think he'd eaten it.
And so, wow, who do you think is going to win, Safi? The whole show?
Oh, I have no idea.
Maybe
I really
him.
Don't.
Maybe him.
No, I don't think so.
But the problem is that, okay, he might be good by himself, but what is going to happen when they get to that restaurant challenge and he has to actually work with other people? He might fail. So that might be what happens with him. That is what I'm going to predict. I predict that a Dabble Do Ya kid, we're going to talk about him. He made this lobster and grits, and I thought that actually looked like the best food of the night. That is the food that I would want to eat most. I've never had good grits before. I had shrimp and grits at this hotel in Chicago, and it was so gross that I would never want to eat grits again. And it was so disgusting. Like, I just thinking about it makes me want to throw up, and then eat the throw up, and then throw up again, and then eat the throw up again, and then throw up again, and then eat it again and throw up again. That's how bad those grits were. But this, he made some really good lobster and grits, and so I think that he might actually win because his dad mentored him and taught him about Southern cooking. But there was one little thing that he did that kind of made me like, ugh. And that is, I can't stand this, by the way. They had this interview where he dabbed. He did a dab. And I just, that was so cringeworthy. I don't care if he's a kid or not. Like when I was a kid, I would sit around all day in my underwear. I refused to wear clothes. And I was kind of like a caveman. And and it was really bad. And it's like, I don't want anyone, as a kid, I wouldn't want anyone knowing that, like at school. And so, like with this, I think it's the same type of thing where, okay, he did that behind the camera, but they shouldn't have kept that on the show. They should have edited that out because that was really cringeworthy. Like with Luke Cage, I really loved Luke Cage on Netflix, but when he dabbed in the second season's first episode, that made me quit watching the whole show. Because that made me know, like, this is not good. Like, not good. And the other kid in the top 3, he made eel, and that looked really good too. Oh, good morning, Safi.
I did fall asleep there.
See, I'm not crazy. Safi is. And so, it was funny too because Safi said that it would be harder to cook the seafood. And I said, no, Safi, I would prefer to cook the seafood.
Well,
Because
they had a lot of animals with claws and things, and they had to kill them. And
no, they didn't kill them. The adults
that's
killed
right.
them off camera,
That's
thankfully.
right. Yeah,
Because
that
I was
would've
like,
been
oh,
ew.
that's really creepy.
That's a little much.
Hardcore. Like, what is this, like Saw 5 or something? But I said that it would be a lot better to cook the seafood because, like with fruit, I don't know, it just seems like you could underestimate it like that kid did. Made that kiwi chocolate cake, he underestimated it. And he didn't think it through. And what was funny was the best 2 out of the 3 of them were savory. And then with the bottom 3, 2 out of 3 of them were fruit. And so it seemed like I was right, and that the fruit was harder and the savory was easier. And obviously it was hilarious when you had this My Fair Masterchef Junior, and she made apricot cobbler, which sounds really good as well. And Gordon got so mad at her, like,
You whipped up the cream too much. You gotta go back to Hogwarts and learn cream whipping, little girl. Doubtfire.
okay? That's what he said. And she started crying, and it was so funny because she, she just had the same face for like the rest of the episode, even when she didn't get eliminated. And I thought, like, oh, it's so unfortunate that I can't find the picture of her face on Google Images, because it is like it is like it is like the perfect thumbnail picture. But we can't wait to see more of her because she's a character, and I don't really think that. See, that's the problem, is that I can't really judge fairly of like what do I think are the bottom three, when we didn't even get to see all the dishes. Like they even had a magician on the show, and we didn't get to see any of his food. Like he looked like a like Laurel and Hardy type of character, or like, someone from the 1920s, and he made some dish, and it's like I don't even know. Like, I wanted to see what his dish was like. Like, what's up with that? Like, what was he, a magician? So he made his competition disappear or something? Like, I don't understand. And then the kid who ended up going home was Blasian. And I'm not going to explain why I call him Blasian. You guys figure that out by yourselves. Blasian made crawfish, and he had never, ever eaten crawfish before, and so obviously he didn't know how to make it, didn't know anything about it. I have had crawfish about 2 or 3 times, and so I would have done better than him, funnily enough. But I thought that was unfortunate, because they said that he made the other two elements of the dish really, really good, but he just didn't make the crawfish right. He overcooked it, and it looked really gross. Like, it was cut up into like these little cubes, and it looks so gross. But it's not his fault, because like he didn't know how to cook it, and so like you can't blame him. Like, when you have ingredients and you don't know how to cook, and you just do it, it could turn out like a disaster, or it could turn out good. And with his, it just did not work, unfortunately. That was unfortunate. I kind of do think he deserved to go home, though, because just the fact that like that was the hero of the dish, and he failed making it really badly. But still, like, it didn't look terrible. Like, honestly, I still might want to eat it, just because, like, I haven't had crawfish in a long time, and I might just be willing to eat it, like, in any way possible, because the crawfish is really good. And so now I'm going to rate the episode of Safi is Off in Dreamland. Sleepy Sellout Safi hashtag. I give this episode a B minus, because I actually like the kids that they got this year. I think that they're all pretty interesting. They're all pretty unique. I can't wait to see more of them, because it just they just picked and chose, which kid they showed and which kid hid in the background like a wallpaper painting. So I really like the kids this year, and so therefore I give it a B minus. Safi gives it a Z Z Z Z Z Z Z. And with that, I think I'll end it. And oh shit, our video is as long as the episode. Well, that's what happens when you have a co-host who, acts like a crazy person. So, please like this video, comment, tell Safi to wake the hell up and stay awake, because she's doing a review. And then please subscribe to our channel. Because would you like to see more MasterChef Junior reviews. I'd like to do more because I think it's hilarious. And I can't wait to get a lot of negative pushback. I can't wait to get attacked just for criticizing a show that I watched on television. Because that's what happens with these shows nowadays, is that if you criticize any show at all, you get criticized. And it's funny because back in the old days, when you criticized a show, they listened to what you had to say. And that needs to come back. And in order to do that, we have to criticize everything. And no matter if it's kids or not. And, we're not criticizing the kids personally. We're just criticizing the characters. Because they edit this show. They choose, what the kids look like on the show in terms of, how they're portrayed. It's not my fault what impression they give off. I'm not saying that that's what they're like in person or anything, so I just wanted to make that clear. So goodbye, everybody. See you soon. Safi is already asleep. And so, Safi is the real loser tonight. She should be the one going home, being eliminated, sent home. She made a Waldorf salad, a Watergate salad. It gave me a stomach ache. And that's kind of why I had trouble doing this review, is because I ate that Watergate salad. And so she should be really the one who's eliminated. And so I'd like to also say, #eliminate Sleepy Safi. So goodbye, everybody. See you soon.